Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fact of the Matter podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing our reactions to Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan in that fight card. Let's get right into it. Let's first talk about our reactions. Goose, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. My reaction is just pure sadness, personally. Benil versus Arman, man, that was depressing. I'm a really big Benny fan. I was already expecting Arman by knockout. I think I mentioned it on the podcast, but it was quite like earlier. My last official pick, last minute, I guess you could call it, was Arman by knockout on round 4 because you know I mean, I don't know, his last two fights he's been a lot more aggressive than he usually is, and he's not known to be this big finisher, but he's I mean him like the same as Islam, he's become a lot more aggressive, I think, and he's finding an ability to finish fights where maybe he didn't have it as much before. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? It was super quick fight. um Very sad. I was Half of my sadness comes from not seeing any of the grappling. I was so excited to watch scrambles with these two guys, and hopefully a sweet Benny submission or something. I don't know, but yeah, he just ended too quick. Kind of sad. And it's also because I was so sure some things were gonna happen, and the fight was so quick that almost none of it did. So, I thought the knockout was gonna come from like a right high kick. I thought we'd see some scrambles, we'd see some point fighting and striking, and then Benny might tag Arman a bit, and then Arman would find a right high kick, and then finish him with ground and pound. But you know, uh, yeah, you win some, you lose some. Yeah. What about you, Jack?
You know, I was very surprised. With this fight, going off of Arman's history, you didn't expect him to have power. I wonder if this is from Benny's chin decay.
Mm.
No, we can only speculate. I can't wait to see the grappling. I think this is going to be a very good fight. I can't wait to see who wins. And I remember before the fight, I texted my buddy. I was like, I hope this doesn't end in like 60 seconds. And then the fight happened, and it ended in 60 seconds. And I was just like, hey, are you kidding me? But yeah, going into the grappling, I expected to be very competitive. I saw a lot of people saying that Arman was going to win by quote unquote wrestling, and I just don't see that, especially with these high level grapplers. Gamrot couldn't control
Right.
Dariush, and Arman couldn't. He had a better chance. He had better time controlling Arman than he did Dariush, and it's just like you look at the scrambling ability of Dariush. You look at the submission game of him. He's got a better submission game than Arman does, and I thought it was going to come down the striking, which it did, and I wasn't very suspect of Dariush's chin. I did think there was a chance he would get hurt, but I didn't think Arman necessarily had the power that he does have. And when he knocked him down just with that one punch, I was in shock, just especially with the foot up.
Yeah.
Having the foot up definitely lowers a lot of your
Very
power.
suspicious.
And
Very
he
suspicious.
got him on the chin, very suspicious, but it also goes to it's the strikes you don't see coming that hurt you the most and knock you out, and
Mm.
I don't think Darius saw that coming, and that could also be why it hurt him so much. But I was sad to see it end in one round. I wanted to see these guys go back and forth.
Same.
On paper, it was such a close fight, and I see a lot of people now saying that Dariush is super overrated, and I gotta disagree with those people. On the ground we saw him compete with Oliveira and Gamrot, who are both top tier grapplers, who could be even better than Arman, in my opinion, are better than Arman. What it's going to come down to these guys is who's got the better striking, and right now, it seems like Arman's gotten leveled up a little bit.
I think Arman, he still has some of the some holes that had been exposed before, though. I will say that, but yeah, he's coming into his own in the striking. But yeah, the way this sequence turned out, I was really wondering if it was Benny's chin that is just not as good. Although he did have like a banger with Drakkar close, you know. So and his chin held up then, but he has been knocked out real bad, like a few times now by and the Barbosa knockout, Oliveira, now Arman. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, it's the shot you don't see coming that
Yeah,
got you. But the fact that it was just out cold, that was insane.
he couldn't even get up to when the decision was announced. He couldn't even walk over to stand next to in his loss. He had to stay at the chair because he was still wobbled. It was a very bad knockout, and we'll get to even worse knockouts later. But why don't we go into potential fights for these guys? For Arman Tsarukyan, it's hard. It's hard to decide because these top level guys that are at the top are not going to accept fights with them. Yeah. As much as people are saying, "Oh, I can't wait to watch Dariush or Dustin Poirier fight Arman Tsarukyan," I just don't see Dustin accepting that fight. I just don't see it happening. I do see a better chance with Gaethje, but Gaethje said he's going to wait for a title fight. So what I am saying for Arman is he should, as much as I hate this, he should wait out and wait to fight the loser of Oliveira versus Islam. As much as I hate it, I do think he should fight the loser of Oliveira versus Islam. For Dariush, I would say I like the Dan Hooker fight. I think his chin might not, I'm worried about his chin, but he could definitely take down Dan Hooker, and those kickboxing guys keep pulling out. They're going to get a bad reputation, even more so. But we'll see. I think that's a fight he can win. Hooker's not necessarily at peak performance anymore, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Hooker is the right fight to make for Beneil. I mean, it's a way for either Dan to step in there and say, hey, I'm still, at the top, I can beat Benny too. Or it's a good bounce back from Benny, from a guy that's coming off, a couple wins now. So it's like a way to stop his downfall. So I think that's the right matchup to make right now. I mean, otherwise, Jalen Turner would be another option, although I really don't want to see that fight, considering Jalen's size and power. But as for Arman, I really think they should just, like the UFC, should just give it to Dustin and say, hey, fight this guy, or you have to. But yeah, I don't know about the likelihood. I think both Justin and Dustin need one more win, or should have one more win before contesting for the title. Oh, well, Dustin more than one, but you know what I mean.
Arman waiting out, yeah. Which that fight hasn't been announced, but Dana already said that's the fight he's gonna make.
Yeah, there are no lightweight fights booked for the top 15. Isn't that crazy?
That is actually pretty crazy. I'm a bit surprised by that. Now, I wonder. Well, because they all just fought, except for Oliveira, but Oliveira fought earlier. And he was supposed to fight Islam. But our next one, Jalen Turner versus Bobby Green.
Yeah, I think the story of the fight went from Turner miraculously makes weight and knocks out Bobby Green to goddamn what a terrible stoppage, because goddamn what a terrible stoppage, It's definitely one of the worst I've ever seen. I mean, I'm not ready to say the worst, but it's definitely up there. I mean, when he was already out cold, he still, like, Bobby Green still received like 3 more shots because the ref was just that stupid. Like, I mean, apparently I did not recognize the referee, but some people say, like, he's actually like one of the better refs. I mean, I don't know how. Like, you're looking right at it, right? You're looking at the fighter. Like, what was he just zoning out or something?
He had
How?
Bobby Green went down from being wobbled, and then like he had taken a bunch of shots already that showed that he wasn't defending himself.
Yeah.
And then he was like, nah, keep going. And then he waited till Bobby Green got completely KO'd until he stopped the fight, which shouldn't have happened. Bobby Green was done.
Yeah, but he was already out cold, and he still allowed more shots to land. I don't know how that happens, man.
It was
I really
terrible.
don't.
It's bad when Dana says he's firing that guy immediately.
Oh, but I don't think he said. Did he?
I'm pretty sure he did. He said that he hated the stoppage. So I think he said he was going to fire the guy. I could be wrong, but
Crazy.
I thought I heard him say he was going to fire him.
And as far as like what my expectations were, I think on the breakdown I did. Oh wait, actually, we didn't talk about this fight because we talked about Hooker versus Bobby. So Turner to like
it was
hurt
supposed to be
Bobby.
Hooker at that time.
But I think I was so concerned about Turner's weight on short notice that my official prediction, if you will, was Bobby by decision. Not too surprised at the outcome though.
Yeah, as you said, again, that stoppage was terrible. It should never have happened. It shouldn't have been stopped that late. Going into the fight breakdown, going into the fight, I expected Turner to KO him round 1. I think if you look on verdict, I did have Jalen Turner round 1 KO. And going into that fight, I was looking at it, and I do think Jalen Turner, his power is just absurd. He's so lanky. He's so tall. I mean, he was almost a whole head taller than Bobby Green. And going into that height difference, I mean, yeah, Bobby Green's coming off these wins over Tony and Grant Dawson, and Turner's coming off these losses. It's short notice, but stylistically, Turner's a much more developed striker, a much more technically better striker than Bobby Green. Bobby Green does have a camp, but yeah, I didn't expect it to do much. I was worried about the weight. I was expecting Turner to kind of miss weight on purpose. But he made the weight, and props to him.
Massive props.
I was not expecting him to make weight. Massive props to him. I'm very impressed that he made the weight, even though I do think he should go up a weight class. But he's bigger than Bo Nickel, who's a middleweight.
He should grow into it though. He should actually take time to beef up, right?
No, yeah, he would. He might have like a Rumble Johnson thing where he goes up maybe even 2 weight classes and destroys that person. I look at what he's done and what he did in this fight. I mean, he did properly. He kept distance, and he struck at distance, and you can see the reach of Turner giving so many problems to Bobby Green. I mean, Bobby Green was not connecting almost any of his strikes just because of that distance management that Turner had, and then you can see it was definitely affecting him. It's funny when you see it because he was not doing well. Now, going into potential fights for these two, I have 2. I have one for both. You want to go first there, Goose?
Sure. I think for Jalen Turner, I think the fight that makes most sense for the rankings is Fisiev once he comes back. I think he should be back around. I mean, what next year, about June or something? I don't quite remember, but I think it's a good comeback fight for Fisiev. But I don't think it's. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Turner will want to wait. I think the most fun fight to make right now would be Moicano, or just rematch Dan Hooker and that doesn't make sense for the rankings though. That's what I would like to see, a rematch with Hooker. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to say, to be honest. Um, they could rematch. Oh, actually, Gamrot against Turner, I think, is the fight I like the most because they gave the fight to Gamrot, but it was a robbery, and I think that it's worth, you know, revisiting that fight, in my opinion. As for Green, heal up and then see what the lay of the land looks like. When he returns, but that knockout was terrible, terrible. I really did not like seeing that.
Yeah, I did not either. Going into fights for these guys. For Turner, I got one a little bit different. I do like that physique fight, and I do want him to get the rematch with Dan Hooker because I think that was a robbery for him. You talked about the Gamrot for robbery, and I'm sitting there just going, all right, which rematch should he got where he got robbed first? Should he should he take the Gamrot fight where he got robbed, or the Dan Hooker fight where he got robbed? But yeah, I do like that physique fight. One of them is that I really want, but I know it's not going to happen. Is Jalen Turner versus Michael Chandler. Chandler's not going to take that fight, but he
Right.
should because he hasn't won a fight since early 2020, and he's still ranked number 5.
Wait, no.
It's infuriating, and
Wait,
because he
no. Tony
his
and
last
Chandler
one
was
was Tony Ferguson, which was
was that long ago already?
Chandler's last win. Yeah, it was
No,
like
it was May last year.
it was
Yeah.
it
Wow.
was June. Was it May or was it June?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
May.
it's May. May last year's when he beat Tony.
Yeah,
And then he
and
lost to Dustin Poirier and then hasn't fought since. It's
still
about to
not
be
a.
2024 and he hasn't won a fight since 2020. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's absurd he's number 5 right now.
totally
Uh
agree.
and for Bobby Green, you know, I agree that he should wait. However, if he were to fight again, I do believe him fighting Matt Frivola would be an interesting fight or a fight that makes sense. I do think Frivola would KO him round 1 because after that destruction of his chin. But I think rankings wise that makes sense. Frivola just left the rankings, and Bobby Green's at number 14 still. And I think rankings wise that will make sense. Hopping into the next fight, let's talk about Font versus Figgy. You want to go
Yeah,
first, Goose?
wow. I was wrong on that one. I'll admit. I'll be the first to admit. I thought that Font was gonna. Well, my pick was Font by round 2 TKO. That's what I was expecting to happen. And that's mainly because, well, Figgy looked quite a bit different on this fight. He was moving a lot more than usual, and even the commentators mentioned it. He was looking a bit more like Henry Cejudo. He was borrowing a few things from his style, with a different stance as well, but usually what we saw him do at flyweight was that, like kind of like his thing. Well, he trusts in the speed of his head movement, right? So he just like puts it
Yeah.
right in front of you, his chin, and then just moves and then counters. And I thought, Font is just gonna, he has the reach advantage. And he's gonna be able to meet his chin with jabs. And I wasn't confident on Fige's chin one weight class up. Like considering Moreno like has hurt him pretty bad in the last few wars they had. So, but man, I was wrong. What can I say? Figgy just, I mean, he fought really a really good fight. I think he could have done more. He could have been more aggressive, I think. But Font, man,
I
I don't know
agree.
what's happening with him. Font really didn't do much, and we know that Fig is susceptible to leg kicks, and Font, I don't think he threw more than like 3, or he just didn't. I don't think he came in with a good game plan either. He looked a bit scared of Figgy's power, or like too conservative, and like having the height and reach advantage, he did not fight long at all, which is like he doesn't usually do it, but usually he kind of does it by just landing the jab. But I don't know, I don't think he fought very well, personally. I don't think he is very confident anymore. But listen, props to Figgy. I'm not sure how well Figgy will do against the rest of the top bantamweights, but that was a good performance. A good performance.
Yeah, it was, and yeah, going into it, yeah, I remember on our podcast, I believe when we discussed it, I picked Figgy by submission, and then I changed my pick to Figgy by decision, which
Mm.
uh it got me some good points on verdict, but um
Nice.
going into the fight, I knew breaking down this fight, Font did struggle a lot with connecting on Figgy. It was he was just not being able to hit him at all. I think he missed most of his strikes. Um, and Figgy was doing a very good job at backing up and keeping his distance. He did struggle a little bit when he was backed up to the fence, and that's when Font did most of his damage. But Figgy would just explode on him, and he would hurt him when he exploded. Figgy's his power has translated to this higher weight class. It's awesome to see because you see him hurt Font twice, like pretty bad. And during that fight, I remember putting it in the Fight Dialogue group chat. Shout out there if you guys want to talk to us. We can. That's where we are. I remember saying that I was getting so mad at Figgy for not going forward because he had so much success whenever he went forward, and him not going forward, it was just infuriating because he could have ended that fight, I think, if he went forward more. But wow, he did a great job. At his game plan, the game plan he did a great job at executing. I do think he could have came forward more. Font, I feel bad for him because I didn't see what he was trying to do. I see he was just getting frustrated because he wasn't connecting, and whenever he did trade with Figgy, he would get hurt, and he just didn't want to get hurt anymore. I think this was just stylistically a bad matchup for him. I think if he executed more kicks, he probably would have done better. But I don't know. I felt bad for him. But going into potential fights for these two, I'll go first. With Figgy, as much as it's hard for me to put him at this one, I do want him to fight Corey Sandhagen as much as I don't know if he deserves that fight yet. But, Peter Yan, that could be an interesting fight for him. I do think I would prefer the Peter Yan fighting Song Yadong next, and then Marlon Vera's fighting for the title. Henry Cejudo's fighting Marab, and Marlon Vera's fighting Sean, so it's a lot of people are booked. The only people who aren't are Peter Yan and Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen might not take the fight, as he is higher in the rankings. He is close to a title shot. I do think it would be interesting to see Peter Yan fight Davison Figueiredo, though I do think Peter Yan wins that. But I would prefer to see Corey fight Davison. For Rob Font, I would say Ricky Simon. He's coming up. He just lost to Song Yadong. I think that'd be an interesting fight for him to come back to.
Yeah, no, those are not bad. I don't know if I like Corey next for Figgy, to be honest. I think Corey should really just be asking for a title shot. I think he deserves it. Like after Mirab, well, Cheeto should just not be fighting. It's for the shot, but it is what it is. I think I think Figgy and Yan makes good sense because Figgy still has to establish himself in the division, and Piotr Yan is in need of a win, right? And he's the only top 5 fighter without a fight book. Oh wait, no, Corey. I think is Corey and Umar official yet or no? Or
No, I've heard that it's in the works at least, which I hope
is
that's a
bullshit.
troll because Umar doesn't deserve that.
Yeah.
I would like
No.
if for a fight with Umar, I'd like to see him fight someone like Pedro Munoz or something, someone who's
Yeah.
lower.
Yeah, no, but I mean, Corey, in my opinion, should wait and either fight Sean O'Malley if O'Malley loses against Chito, and otherwise maybe the loser of Mirav and Henry Cejudo, probably. But Figgy, I think, should fight Piotr Jan. Um, as for Rob Font, I think Dominic Cruz. Cruz does not have a fight booked yet,
Mm,
and I don't think he has had one for a while. And I think they're right next to each other in the rankings, so it just makes sense.
I thought that fight had already happened, but I was thinking Pedro Munoz versus Cruz.
Mm.
But yeah, that's an interesting fight. Rob Font versus Dominic Cruz. Ooh, I like that. I do like that. That's a good fight for both of them.
Yeah,
Mm,
and they're both like older a bit,
wow.
so it's not a mismatch or anything, right? So yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
But
God.
honestly, I think Font, for the sake of his career, he should take a bit of like more of a step down, like perhaps Jonathan Martinez or Ricky
Yeah.
Simon is another good one. Um, not sure. I think I
Yeah.
worry for Font's mindset in his career right now. To be honest.
Dominic, I gotta figure out who I think wins that fight between Cruz and Font right now.
Mm.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, no, it's a fun one too.
Oh, definitely. It'll be an interesting fight. I am interested to see how Dominic Cruz's chin holds up. He hasn't fought in a little bit. His last loss was to
Yeah,
Cheeto, I believe. That was end of 2020.
no, I
Two
think
was
2021.
that end
No,
of 2022 or beginning of? It was August 13th, 2022.
2022. Right. Yeah.
Was the Cheeto versus Cruz?
Well, it's about time he came
Yeah,
back or retired.
yeah.
One of the
And
two.
just into the favorite fight. John Brady versus Kevin Gastelum. Oh gosh, as a wrestling fan, because I love wrestling so much, but gosh, that fight was boring.
Wow,
I'll
even
go
you.
first. Yeah. Oh, I know, and I love watching boring wrestling. It's awesome. I love it. But
Jeez.
Kevin Gaslam just does not have any grappling. I thought I was like, all right, maybe he can have some grappling and take people and stop takedowns because I think I picked him to win by decision, and
Mm.
Sean Brady just took him down and did whatever the heck he wanted to Kevin Gaslam, and gosh, props to Sean Brady. He came back in a big way, but wow, was that fight just not an entertaining fight to say the least.
Yeah.
But props to Sean Brady. I do think Kevin Gastelum needs to work on his wrestling. I do think he'll never be a title contender ever. I think he'll be a journeyman. I like Kevin Gastelum. I loved his fight with Izzy, but he's got to work on some things.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was kind of sad, to be honest. I was hoping we would get to see a bit more, but I think Taco was the only one that got it right when we did the podcast, which was, I think, 2 weeks prior
Um,
to the event. But after looking a bit more
yeah,
into it, I was like, you know what? I really do think, I was banking a bit too much on, Gastelum's size and maybe preparation, that maybe he'd be able to stuff a few takedowns, maybe survive, like, keep it standing and then just land good shots, but and I thought about it and I was like, no, I mean, most likely what's going to happen is just Brady by snooze fest, and that's exactly what happened. But props to Brady. He
sure.
transitioned into different positions very smoothly, always one step ahead, sometimes two. Gastelum did well
Yeah,
defending submissions, but that's all he did well. There were opportunities where he could have stood up, and he didn't. I mean, you mentioned them to me. I think we're watching it live,
yeah.
and a bit disappointing, but not exactly surprising. I think Gastelum should just stick to more of the fun fights from now on. Just striking matchups, and I think he'll do good in
I
those.
have
And oh, you have one? You have a
I have
suggestion?
an idea for those.
Tell me.
I have one. Well, I do. But we'll get when we'll do the fighter picks or fights to make.
Yeah, you go ahead, man.
But yeah, as I had said, well, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No worries.
as you said, I did mention that when we were watching the fight live that he had many opportunities to just stand up, like do a basic wrestling stand up, where he's just sitting there. I think one thing is I think he was just tired. There's been even in my own wrestling matches where I've watched it back and I look at myself and I'm like, dude, just stand up. Like
Hmm.
he's giving you the opportunity. He's not even putting that much pressure on you. And then I watched Kevin Gastelum and it was like similar things where I think he was just tired. But
There.
going into our fights to make for Sean Brady, I think we should do Jeff Neal because he was supposed to fight Shavkat, but he was supposed to fight Ian Gary, but he pulled out of that fight. He's got no fight right now, and Sean Brady defended his rank against a not newer contender, but newer to the division contender. And for Kevin Gastelum, I think he should fight Kevin Holland. I think that would be a interesting fight to say the least. Both strikers, both just like to have fun. Kevin Holland likes to talk a lot of smack or just talk. So I do like that fight. What do you think?
Yeah, no, for Brady, I would like to see Gilbert Burns, to be honest. I think, well, first because I think Gilbert Burns wins, and I'm not exactly a fan of Burns, but it means Brady loses. And Brady's boring, which means I want him to lose. So I think and he did come off a win, a good bounce back. He was on his way. I mean, he has a good streak, or had a good streak. So I think it's a good fight to see where he's actually at. So that's the fight I have for Brady. And as for Gastelum, it's hard to say. He might have to step out of the welterweight rankings and look for a fight there. But if we're sticking with the rankings, would like to see Vicente Luque if Luque loses to Ian, which I think will happen personally. But if that doesn't happen, I think, man, maybe Neil Magny. Like he's a standard gatekeeper of the welterweight division. So, although not very exciting fight,
interesting, yeah.
as I said earlier, but maybe Jack Della against Gastelum would be a fun one. But I don't know if that one makes too much sense right now.
That'd be interesting. Isn't JDM coming off? Who did he beat recently? JDM didn't he beat Kevin Holland? Or am I tripping? He did beat Kevin Holland by a split decision. I didn't watch that fight. I believe I had something to do at that time. But yeah, interesting fight. Yeah, JDM's coming off.
It doesn't make too much sense right now, but be a fun one at least.
Maybe JDM versus Jeff Neal might be interesting, huh? But yeah, that is our podcast. To go through Toby's picks as he isn't here right now. I believe he said Neil Dariush. He predicted Neil Dariush. We didn't get his Turner versus Bobby fight. He picked. I believe he picked Figgy. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he picked Figgy.
And then he predicted. Yeah, and then he predicted Sean Brady.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.
Oh yeah. Peace.